Welcome to the show, guys. We're continuing on with the Impact series. We're bringing in the best, brightest beat writers, the feet on the street for every single team. And it's a pleasure to have Jonathan Alexander on the show. What's going on, Jonathan?
Nothing much. How's it going?
Good. We are talking the Panthers today. We got so many questions to ask you. Before we get into that, we want to know a little bit about you. How did you get into this? How do you follow the team? What type of insight do you have? My fantasy listeners are very shallow. They just want information. Give me information now, but they want to know where it's coming from. So if you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how they find you, how they can find you.
Yeah, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina originally, born and raised. Been in journalism industry for about almost 10 years now. Been covered many beats from UNC basketball and football, Duke basketball, and I've been doing the Carolina Panthers for the past 2 years. So 3 off seasons and 2 full seasons, covering everything about the team. So just a little bit about me, write feature stories, breaking news, anything you could think of.
You live and breathe the Panthers, like you understand them inside out. I have a friend I follow. I started this fan to fan network before. It's basically getting the best and brightest online influencers. And there's a guy, Big Cat, that I used to talk to, and I follow his channel. Have you heard of Big Cat?
Yeah, I've heard of Big Cat.
Yeah, he's a pretty wild Carolina Panthers fan, so I know him. I think he was just recently on Family Feud as well. He got on the feud.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Yeah. And but it's a lot of pretty passionate Panthers fans out there.
I mean, the guy dresses as a big cat. I mean, I don't know how much more passionate you can
Yeah, get. Man. He's got his own show and everything.
I gotta admire that. So I was just curious if you knew him. So I got so many questions from a fantasy perspective. We're going to talk, Sam Darnold. I want to know about him, that whole situation, Christian McCaffrey, the kind of the drama here with Robby Anderson. So in regards to fantasy, the only guy that jumps out, let's just start off with the meat and potatoes here. I like to save the best for last. And then at the end, I want to ask you some inside information, any of that type of stuff. So guys, make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But let's just dive right into the main guy here, Christian McCaffrey. Last year, we had the issue with the injury there with the leg. I think it was like a hamstring leg injury, kind of ran off. We got a pitch out to the side, was running with the ball. Nobody touched him, and he went down. He was pretty much banged up all season. Christian McCaffrey a couple years ago was a fantasy stud. Last couple years, played 10 games in the past 2 seasons. Hasn't been able to assemble a full season and get back to the Christian McCaffrey that we know and we love. What are some expectations for Christian McCaffrey? Does he get back to that form this year?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, he has been hurt the past 2 years. He had a whole bunch of injuries 2 years ago in that 2020 season. It was just one thing after another. In this past year, he had a hamstring injury that kept him out for about 5 weeks. He came back, played a few games. I think he played about 7. But then towards the end of the year, he had his ankle fell. A couple of linemen fell on his ankle. He had a bad ankle injury. So he shut it down the rest of the year. But, he says, that was a freak injury. He says he's healthy coming into this season. And the Panthers are going to look to give him the ball. I mean, they're not going to force feed him, like they've done in the past in fear, because they want to keep him healthy. But they're going to do everything they can to kind of keep him healthy and keep him on the field.
As of right now, the time of this recording, does he look solid? Does he look ready to go? Does he look like he is the Christian McCaffrey from a couple years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. He hasn't missed a beat. Also have to realize, he hasn't played that many games in the past 2 years, so he's still fresh. A lot of these running backs, they take beatings from the amount of hits, and Christian McCaffrey hasn't taken that many hits in the past 2 years, I think. And he's still young. I think he might be 27, which is still fairly young for a running back. So I think he has a good 2 more years of really quality playing them before you typically kind of see that decline. And he's such a threat in the passing game too. So you have to count for him in so many ways.
So for me, he's a little expensive. He's like the top 3 running back off the board this year. He's very highly praised and promoted by the mainstream consensus. I'm not really that high on him. So my big thing for him is obviously the injuries over the past couple seasons. And we have an entirely new, different offense from the one a couple years ago, right? Will he get the receptions that he had years ago? Who was throwing the ball to? Was it Cam Newton or someone? I can't remember when he had that rookie year or that amazing year a couple of years ago. I don't know. My mind's like not even working right. I think it was like Newton or someone like that was throwing him the ball a lot. Is Darnold gonna get him the ball that much? Is he gonna see that type of action?
Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey was Darnold's safety blanket. He actually probably went to him a little too much when Christian was playing. I think Christian's going to have a good year if he stays healthy, but there is the risk that he has to stay healthy, and you have to weigh that when evaluating, whether you want to pick him. But his upside is through the roof. Like I mentioned, his threat as a receiver as well as a running back. Some ways I think he's a better receiver than he is a running back sometimes. But he's just a playmaker in general, and you do have to weigh, that high ceiling versus the injury history, and I don't think it's tailored towards him. The fact that he got injured the past 2 years, I think it's just the position that he plays, because up until that point he had been healthy for his whole entire career, but he just plays a violent position.
I'm just questioning, like I said, that offense looks different. I look at Kyle Allen and Cam Newton were the other quarterbacks thrown to him those years that he did well. I just went back and looked while you were talking. I'm not sold on Darnold yet. Like, he's had years to wow me. I'm not wowed. Is Darnold the solution there in Carolina? Because I think you got him, Matt Carroll? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Is he a future franchise? Corral, is he the future of them, or is Darnold going to be the guy? Is Darnold, because again, we're talking about, because I just had the beat writer for the Falcons on. I had the beat writer for who was it? The Broncos on. It's like we need those awesome franchise quarterbacks, and I don't know if Darnold is it. Is he the solution this year? How is he looking this year?
Yeah, I don't think that he's the solution either. I think he can be average with the better offensive line, but I think he is very limited in what he can do. Having said that, good players will get their touches. DJ Moore had a great year this past year. I think he had the best year of his career while they had the worst quarterback play of his time in Carolina. But I also don't think that Sam Darnold will be the starter, for the rest of this. He might not even be the starter week one. I think the Panthers, have engaged in trade talks with Cleveland Browns. I think that they have a desire to find an upgrade at quarterback, whether that's Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield. So, I'm not totally convinced that Sam Darnold will be the quarterback week one.
For sure. That is a good point. How far have the talks gone with Baker? I did hear that buzz now that you remind me. How far are those talks gone? Which one do you think it's very serious then that he's going to come through? And if he does, could Baker really ignite this offense?
Yeah, I think the talks are very serious. They're right now at an impasse, though. The Panthers want the Browns to take on the majority of Baker Mayfield's $18.9 million salary. And while the Browns have, said they would take on some of it, they haven't gone as far as the Panthers want them to go. So right now they're at an impasse. The Browns are also going through a situation where, Deshaun Watson could be suspended. So, even though they're through with Baker Mayfield, I think the Browns are looking for probably the best package that they could possibly get just in case that situation does arise. So it just doesn't seem like either team is in a real big rush right now. You got a little bit more than a month before the training camp starts. So I think things will heat up around then, though.
I don't want to be repetitive here, but I'm really going to pick at you with the CMC stuff because, again, everybody's so high on Christian McCaffrey to produce. Like, he is being drafted as he's going to be the Christian McCaffrey from 3 years ago, right, when another quarterback was throwing to him. Don't you think like a Baker Mayfield will only affect them in a positive or negative way? Like, I just can't imagine him is he going to get the full workload? What's his stat line I'm just picking at you with Christian McCaffrey. What's his potential stat line? I won't hold you to it, but for Christian McCaffrey this year, is it going to be, again, they're going to try to preserve him, like you said, a little bit more? Is Chuba going to come in? Hubbard? Is it going to be Foreman? Is he going to be coming in? What's a potential stat line for him? And again, do you see him performing to that same level that he was a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, just the Panthers in the past just had a tendency to overuse him.
Yeah.
Like, look for him almost on every third down play. Look for him in any situation where, they were in trouble. I think he has that ability, but I think with the signing of D'Onta Foreman, I think that allows them to use D'Onta Foreman in those third and short situations that they may have otherwise given Christian McCaffrey. But Christian McCaffrey is definitely going to be the lead back.
For
You know,
sure.
I could if he stays healthy with the 17 with the 17 game season, he will rush for over 1,000 yards. And
Easy.
Christian McCaffrey, he didn't lose pace as far as catching the football. So
Right.
you've got to imagine he has at least 80 catches. At least 80 catches. Now, how many yards? I'm not really sure. But he's going to get touchdowns along those way. I think he has at least 7 touchdowns if he's healthy for all of those games. So I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be very productive as a starter. He's going to be as good of a starting running back as there is in the league.
I just had Tori on, the beat writer for the Falcons, and we have you projected to finish last in your division. How's that going to play out for you? Do you think that's very viable here? I'm just jumping on a tangent. I was looking at your division. How do you guys think you're going to finish? Because again, we're talking offense, preserving Christian McCaffrey to last, and it got me thinking, division wise, you guys look like the total dog right now.
Yeah, Panthers wise, I don't see how they could finish last unless they had a number of injuries. I don't know who. I can't remember off the top of my head who finished last year, but
Falcons, I think was the Falcons. I can't remember
yeah,
Panthers or Falcons. Again, you got the Saints and Bucks, but I mean they're looking good this year. I don't know about Saints, but Tampa's going to finish on top. I can't imagine.
yeah. I think the Falcons and the Panthers had either identical records or very similar, but the Falcons have taken a dip. They don't, they lost Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is a lot better quarterback than people give him credit for.
I know he is. Yep.
You also lose your top wide receiver, to the gambling, scandal.
Yeah. Ridley.
And Ridley and their defense just isn't good. So, I think the Falcons will take a hit. I think the Panthers, what they've done, you saw their biggest weaknesses last year was their offensive line. They were terrible offensive line,
Right.
And quarterback as well. They've upgraded offensive line in a big way. They plan on upgrading at quarterback, but even if they don't get anybody other than Sam Darnold, with a better offensive line, he'll play a little bit better. So I think where the Panthers go depends on who they get at quarterback. But they'll be better than they were last year, and I think the Falcons are taking a little bit of a step back. I think the Saints are a little bit of a wild card. They're always a good team, always well coached. I do think it's Tampa, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons.
That makes total sense. Now, I wanted to ask you, Robby Anderson, a little bit of not necessarily drama going on, but I guess you could say drama. They've been questioning him. He's kind of hinted at retirement. And then they asked him if he's been happy with the team. He said, I wouldn't be here or something like that if he was. I can't quote him exactly. Any update or any insight on what's going on with Robby Anderson? Is he going to be a viable wide receiver for fantasy? And then you've got DJ Moore there as well with the wide receiver course. So can you just break down Robby Anderson? Anything you know on him?
Yeah, he said I'm here, Anna.
Yeah.
A couple of about 3 times in the press conference. I think Robby Anderson has said, we asked him about it. He said he was going through some personal things. He didn't specify what those personal things were, but that caused him to have those thoughts. They were real thoughts. I think Robby Anderson had the worst year of his career last year.
Yeah.
Even when he had the best year of his career in 2020, when I think about fantasy, I don't know that he was, top tier. He was a good player to have on your roster to put in, when you have a good bye week. But I probably wouldn't take a chance on Robby Anderson this year, just given what happened last year, given the thought, the retirement thoughts. DJ Moore to me is way more of a viable option and a valuable piece who I think is going to continue to get better. And I'm just not convinced about Robby Anderson.
That makes me concerned as a fantasy owner, but also as a team, because if anyone's kind of threatening retirement or suggesting it, you wonder if they're there mentally, right? You almost think that maybe they've checked out or maybe they're just disgruntled with the quarterback play or whatever, right? That's something that kind of gets you when someone says that, and could I be wrong? Then could he be mentally kind of declining, saying, well, I'm kind of like stop feeling it right now? That could be possible, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yesterday's practice, he looked, he was really into the music, so he looked a little bit more cheery than he had been in the past. But I mean, if he's having those thoughts so close to camp, you have to be concerned about whether he's checked out. And I think Matt Rule mentioned that he felt like, Robby Anderson would get a ton of production in Ben McAdoo's offense. And you kind of wonder if he says that to kind of, get Robby Anderson going. I don't know. I think, taking a chance on Robby Anderson is a huge gamble.
For sure. No, he'd be like a last pick, deep sleeper, dart throw at the end. No one's excited about Anderson for fantasy, but there is some talk and people are asking me about this. So maybe you can clear the air on this. How good is Terrace Marshall Jr., a rookie coming in? Is he solid? Like, how does he look? Is he going to get the volume?
I'd probably pick him over Robby Anderson. I don't exactly know if I'd draft him. I think, Terrace Marshall didn't get a lot of touches last year, didn't get a lot of opportunities. He was coming off a couple of college injuries. He's healthy now. Everybody is talking positively about him. I think the thing about Terrace Marshall is he has so much potential. He has a speed, he has a size. He was a touchdown machine at LSU. I think he led even Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in touchdowns before he got hurt. So I think Terrace Marshall has a lot of potential. Whether he'll get there this year or next year, I'm leaning more towards next year. But I would definitely keep an eye out on him if he has a good first game, because I think that'll be indicative of the future games, because a lot of people are talking really highly about him. So definitely keep an eye out on Terrace Marshall.
I stand corrected. I called him a rookie. He was actually a 2021 NFL draft pick in the second round. Is that correct? I think.
Correct. This is his second year.
Second year. I missed. Yeah, that was my bad. So yeah, he's kind of got my attention a little bit. And then tight end here, Tommy Tremble, at Ian Thomas. Are those your top? Who's going to get the volume there? Is there going to be a volume receiver there? Not saying Kelsey, it's hard to compare to Kelsey, but is there going to be a guy that's a viable receiving target at tight end for the Panthers this year?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't touch either of those guys.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Both of them had the same amount of catches, but they weren't much of a factor in the passing game. Their specialty is blocking, and I think the Panthers will try to get them the ball more because they have some ability there, but I don't think there'll be much of a factor.
Okay, and straight from the source, because you live and breathe the Panthers. If you're going to go a running back round one, are you genuinely comfortable that Christian McCaffrey is going to produce on a high? Do you play fantasy, by the way?
Yeah, I play fantasy sometimes.
Would you be comfortable to get Christian McCaffrey in the first round, or were you more comfortable getting a Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, a guy that obviously Henry's coming off. I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. Henry's work ethic is crazy. But are you comfortable? Again, I don't want to be like a McCaffrey hater, but I've picked on him for all the modeling pictures, half naked, taking time doing modeling. And I know they got to make some money on the side. But anytime a player's out drinking, gambling, I just kind of go on there and I just rip them, and then they come back at me and say something. McCaffrey's never come back and said anything. But are you comfortable to say that over Henry, Taylor, Najee, this is the guy? I'm totally confident he's going to have an amazing season.
Derrick Henry, he's had injury history too. So he's coming off that injury. I view Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry in the same lens, to be honest with you. I wouldn't choose Christian McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor was just a beast last year.
For sure.
And he's so young. He was on my fantasy team, helped me win.
He's amazing
last year. So I pick him again first. But, I definitely pick Christian McCaffrey in the first round if he was the best available option there. Whether I pick him over Derrick Henry, I guess it would depend on the type of league it was. I think Christian McCaffrey, I don't think he's going to be 3 freak years in a row. I think he'll stay healthy. They'll do everything they can to keep him healthy. And he'll get his touches, and he has such a high ceiling. I think he's a guy you take a chance on. He wouldn't be my first 3 picks, though.
Yeah, he's expensive. And that's the debate I'm having, how you just compare him to Henry. I actually compare him to Saquon Barkley. You got Saquon Barkley, who had that major knee injury, 2 years now removed from that injury, was preserved last year because he knew the Giants would make the playoffs. And you've got that young, dynamic talent playmaker, no committee, improved O-line contract year. And you're getting Saquon round 2, 3. He's ranked 14th on the consensus rankings, and McCaffrey's a top 3 ranking. So I'm looking at both players and saying, I've got almost a similar player. Obviously, McCaffrey's performed better more recently, because I think the last time Saquon had a good year is 2018. So I'm saying to people, I'm just going to take Saquon round 2, because I think they're both an equal risk.
Well, the reason why I wouldn't make that comparison is because they're coming off two totally different injuries.
True. Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey hasn't had any serious injuries like Saquon Barkley's, ACL
Or
tear.
an ACL. Yeah, it's true.
That concerns me, and whether he can get back to, full strength. And maybe last year he just came back a little bit too early, but he just didn't look the same.
No.
Christian McCaffrey had injuries that you can recover from, and you can be full health like it's nothing.
Right.
So that's why if it was between Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, I 100% would take Christian McCaffrey.
And he's ranked higher, I think, for the reasons that you just stated. But I'm a risk taker, man. Like I'm all like, give me JT or Henry round one, maybe even Najee, and then I'm gonna back him up with Saquon. This is what I'm gonna do. Christian McCaffrey, again, I don't feel warm and fuzzy because again, last year, imagine owning Christian McCaffrey and he does that little pitch to the outside, and then no one touches him, and he has that. What was it? A hamstring? It was like a soft tissue injury, right?
Yeah, it was a hamstring injury.
Yeah, like that bothers me. And again, you're human and I don't want to pick on you, but as fantasy owners, you're investing a first round pick. You don't get touched. You have this injury. Like, are you not stretching properly? Are you out modeling too much? Right. I'm really hard on the players, and who am I to talk? Because I'm on the couch, right? But that's just what it is. As fantasy owners, we're very shallow and we're very judgmental on our players. So that would really piss me off as an owner. I wouldn't go back to that. But again, I totally see your point of view. He's as safe as they come. Going to be a pretty high volume guy, solid player. There's no reason why he shouldn't be coming off in round one.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate it. Jonathan, any other inside information that we might not know? Again, at the end of every show, I'm asking everybody, is there a special handshake going on in the locker room? Is there anything we should to know about the players, any type of people having dinners together, that the connections building with Darnold and more, anything that, inside information that we might not know that you might know that you can share with people?
I mean, nothing like that. I guess, the Panthers have been, trying to, build a better connection with each other and going out with each other. But I guess the only thing I can think of is like, somebody who wasn't picked last year who's going to be viable again. If you're looking for a kicker, you could pick up late that probably won't be picked up. Zane Gonzalez is a good option.
Yeah.
He made nearly all of his kicks last year. He was a beast. So him, again, like I said earlier in the show, I'm not particularly sure that Sam Darnold is going to be the quarterback week one. So, the Panthers are probably going to have between Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield, most likely Baker Mayfield. So I think that will allow also Christian McCaffrey to play a lot better, and I think DJ Moore too, because one of the things Panthers receivers have been struggling at is really getting accurate ball thrown to them. So, keep an eye out on that.
Last question. If CMC goes down, hypothetically, again, Mr. 10 games, 2 seasons, who steps up? Would it be a Foreman show or be more of a Hubbard show?
I think it would be more of a Foreman show, just given that he was tasked with that role in Tennessee, and that's what impressed the Panther staff. Seeing him take on that lead back role when Henry went down. So they have faith. That's why they went out to go sign him. Also his power. So I think he would be in the lead back role if Christian McCaffrey were to go down, with Chuba Hubbard helping them out and giving that kind of speed threat, as a side. Dante Foreman.
Yeah, he did look pretty good, man. And he was getting that volume and producing. Like I'm looking at, week 15 last year, 22 attempts, right? Like he got it done. He's capable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, man. Thank you, Jonathan. How do they find you again? And is there any podcast you do or what anything else you promote?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at John M. Alexander, JONM, no H, JONM Alexander on Twitter. We have a podcast called Panthers Tracks. You can follow us on at charlotteobserver.com. And that's where you can read our work.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'm going to link your Twitter below, and they can follow the links from there. So keep it easy for everybody.
Sounds good.
All right, Jonathan, I appreciate you being here, guys. Thank you. Keep and watch the full Impact series below for other beat writers. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.